as musical theater in general, right?
100%. Yeah, like
Like,
that show is it, people make fun of it now. There's like I'm thinking specifically of Arigato being like, okay, we need enough
yeah,
we've had enough rock and roll white people musicals, and having Diana
for
go,
sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But like we wouldn't have any rock musicals the way that we do without Next to Normal. And like I personally just like being a mentally ill person with a mentally ill family was like, this is connecting to me on a deep, 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 deep level.
For sure. And there hadn't really been something like that before. There had been too many, do you know what I mean? Like Eugene O'Neill sort of plays where it's like white family in trouble, having dinner,
Exactly.
right? And this sort of blew that up and blew it out of the water. That, and for me, Spring Awakening was monumental as well.
See, that is a blind spot for me, unfortunately.
What?
I let's get
I'm
into it
having a moment.
because I obviously know kind of the talking points of it. It's like Rachel Berry kind of laying on stage being like, "Mama, who bore me?"
Yeah.
Like so, and I definitely had friends like blasting the music at lunch break, so I have a very, very loose framework for it. What
Okay.
is the plot of Spring Awakening?
So it's funny because it's based on a play, and it sort of loosely takes the plot of the play and then makes it its own thing.
Okay.
But the music's by Duncan Sheik, who, from what I know, my in high school, my theater director was like, "You're listening to a Duncan Sheik musical," because he was apparently like a one-hit wonder in the '80s.
Oh
So
no.
that's who wrote it, right?
Right.
But the music is very good. It's like very like folklory, like T
Yes.
Swift sort of like
Taylor
punky
Swift
rock sort of vibes.
wishes.
she
Yeah.
she really does wish. But it's a bunch of like young kids in very, very repressed Germany in like the, I'm gonna get canceled, the set like the 1800s, I think it is. It's like,
Okay.
or the early nine, like the, I don't know, late 1800s, I think is when it is.
Definitely pre-gay Germany.
Well, like way pre World War One Germany. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly.
And yeah, so they're like, there is a gay character, but like the majority of it is on this, Jonathan Groff and Rachel Berry,
Right.
falling in love. So they're all of them are going through puberty and their bodies are changing, and their parents are part of this older, sort of more repressive society, and the repressive ways of looking at coming into your own and being a kid and what it means to be a kid in the world. And
Right.
they're all like, like rebelling and punk rock and
So it's
not listening and
definitely very. I got this vibe just from hearing about it. Very sexy musical. Very much like
yeah, yes,
yeah.
yes. And
Very
well, it's very horny, I would say.
yes, yes. I definitely remember like the musical theater kids that were into it. I was like, they know what's up. They're advanced as far as those
Yeah,
things goes.
they've humped the pillow a few times
Those are the theater kids that were fucking for sure.
for sure, on the couch, on the one couch.
Yeah, meanwhile, the most profane thing our theater program ever got into was like we did Legally Blonde, and that was like earth shattering for everybody.
That's
So,
another one that I love. I low key
oh,
love Legally Blonde.
I high key love Legally Blonde the musical.
Unironically, I think that's a
Yes,
good musical.
like I could honestly one day I will make that the topic for an entire podcast is Legally Blonde the musical, because there's so much to talk about there, because you have the musical originally, you have the
Hmm.
movie, which is in itself like gay culture,
Hmm.
pop culture, iconic moments like back to back to back. Then you
Right, right,
have the MTV recording, which is the only
right.
good the
Yes.
the only time they've ever translated a musical to television and it just worked. Like Hamilton
Yes.
can fuck off in the face
Yeah.
of Legally
Clearly,
Blonde the musical.
clearly.
And then you have The Search for Elle Woods. Like
Like it's like what? Like
they really built something out of it. And like, oh, it's so good. Like it's one of the few combinations of pop music and musical theater too that I think like they just nailed it.
yeah.
If you were to, okay, dream role in Legally Blonde, I see you as a Paulette.
That's so cute. I would love to be Paulette. That'd be so fun. I
Yes,
hadn't even thought of Paulette. I love that.
you performing Ireland, I think would work, and just like the early 2000s garb, the cheetah
Very that.
zebra print, full vibes. So
Yeah.
going back, what are some older classic shows that became part of your culture, if any?
I know I'm like sort of iffier with the classics. I do love Les Mis, but I
Oh,
love like
of
the
course.
concert recordings of Les Mis.
Yes, of course, of
Do you
course,
know what
of
I
course.
mean? Do you know what I
Yes,
mean?
because a lot of those casts were a little iffy, and then you get into the movie. What were your thoughts on the movie? Because I do find that it's quite split.
I thought it was fine.
Yeah,
You know,
I
um,
cannot stand. God, who is Javert? Australian daddy.
I can
Stars
see him. I can see him in
in
my
their
Russell Crowe. Russell
multitudes.
Crowe.
Russell Crowe,
Yes.
garbage.
Terrible, terrible, terrible.
Absolute
Of
garbage,
course.
and somehow still garbage, like in the light of like miscastings, like Amanda Seyfried and those other roles as well. Masha makes just a wide-eyed
Like,
face. Yeah, absolutely. But I feel like overall, like Hugh Jackman was one of the few people who got out of that like scot-free. Him and like Eddie
yeah,
Redmayne did a good job, I think.
yeah. My only thing with Eddie Redmayne was like his faces kill me. Do you know what I mean? Like his like
Yeah.
empty chairs and
Yeah.
empty
Well, trust me,
tables.
I played Marius in Les Mis, and I
I
went
see that
back
for
and
you.
watched performances. Yes, very romantic lead.
Mhm,
But I went
mhm.
back and watched performances, and I was like, it's hard to watch Eddie Redmayne sing, and mostly because like whatever that director was, he was the one that insisted on live singing, like singing on set.
Right.
And so he is really giving it to you in the face. And he looks not human at many times.
He looks like a frog.
And
like,
yet, that was his sexiest role for me personally.
well, I'm like, how many are there that you would say are sexy?
I don't know, he played Stephen Hawking. And
Very
you know,
hot, very erotic.
very gorgeous. No, that's amazing. And then what were other musicals or theater experiences even outside of musicals that really spoke to you? Because I had a couple of plays that like jumped out during my theater class experience.
For sure. Well, I was really lucky. I went to a great high school. My high school, when I arrived freshman year, we were like recognized by the Kennedy Center as like one of the like best theater programs in the country for a high school. So
That's incredible.
we got a ton of funding that came in after that, and like so then we ended up doing like the whole program changed. We had a spring, like a fall and a spring musical, and then in between there were 3 plays.
Oh, that's
so
amazing.
we did like 5 shows over the course of a year for a high school, which is crazy. So we were
I'm so jealous.
it was like auditions, cast list goes up on a Friday. That Monday it's rehearsals, and then we rehearse for a couple weeks. We do the show, then it's strike immediately after, and then auditions are the next Monday.
That's insane. Like that is what I was absolutely longing for. Like my sad little public school, like it was our spring musical and then the play in the fall, and like people like I typically did not act in the play because I was all about the music and the gayness. And people would go to the play for like irony and camp reasons because it was always bad. Like we did they did Frankenstein one year, and it was it was literally like watching a high school movie where they have like a bad play and people are like killing each other in like these crazy melodramatic ways. Like it was sad with a capital S. And so like I hear about that like theater high school experience, and I'm so jealous. So like what were your roles that really stood out to you? Like what shows did you do that you were like, hell yeah?
Senior year I got to be I was Caldwell B. Cladwell in Urinetown. Which again, underrated. Such a fantastic musical.
Okay, the topic of the episode is now Urinetown, because that was my freshman year show. Yeah, so that was my first like high school musical, and that was very much, from what I understand, that was like a peak for our theater program, because in the 3 years after that I did shows, things sort of went downhill. But people were like, Urinetown was where it was at, and that show is insanely good.
Yes.
Like, so to give the listeners a little bit of context, Urinetown is literally spelled Urine town, and it's about a not too far off dystopian future where people have to pay to pee, and if they're caught peeing in public or doing it anywhere else, they get sent to Urinetown, quote unquote, which is death, being thrown off of the top of a building. There's a central love story, and then you as Caldwell B. Cladwell makes absolute sense to me. He's this big corporate magnate who is collecting all of the money from people pissing. How was that when you guys were doing it in high school? Were you into like the cultural aspects of it? Like they end the show with Hail Malthus, which is literally like a human geography concept about how we're gonna run out of resources. Like, it was dark. Right. Did you guys get into that?
Yeah, I mean, like we eventually, like, there was always some sort of dramaturgy element in the beginning of it, you know, with like the first read through and asking questions and going through and that kind of stuff.
Oh, see, I wish.
You know, which was fun too to learn. I think what was fun about it, like as a high schooler, was that it's satire, right? And it's like you can really lean in, and like there was like with Caldwell B. Cladwell, it was like I got to have these moments where I was like delightfully villainous, like Jeff Bezos having the best day ever, right?
Oh,
and I
got
to look at the audience and like do asides to the audience, or like break the fourth wall, or just like do it was very like do what you want. Like
he was joke. Like he was writing, or they wrote for him a huge amount of like jokes and really satirical material.
Right.
Whereas,
and even the way that songs are vamped into with jokes or with lines, right, is very funny as well.
Exactly. And then they have the contrast where it's like Bobby is almost, the main character is almost like ridiculously serious and romantic. Like everything he says is full melodrama. Like, I have to save the day. Now I have to save my girlfriend. Now I'm a ghost. Like, it was very good. I literally wish I could share the joy in this like stupid show directly with the audience, because you have to see it. I definitely think, like, you bring up Jeff Bezos and it's so funny. I think You're in Town would translate very, very well for a revival in 2021.
Oh, absolutely. It's all that. It's like, what's funny is it's such a timeless story in a way, right? It's haves and have nots.
It's class consciousness, like, to a T. I want to see
totally.
Now I'm just envisioning it. I want to see You're in Town, the revival. I want, like, all-star cast. I want Dolly Parton as the, like, times are hard and tough is tough and piss and right. Yeah, what is her name?
Shoot. Oh, my God.
Penny. Penny something.
Penny, wait.
Not Pennywise. I almost did as well. But there's a like absolute diva queen slay of a character who lords over the bathrooms. Yeah, literally #girl boss. I want like a full all-star cast for that. Give me Andrew Rannells as Bobby Strong, like the whole deal. Okay, so circling back to, you went from theater in high school to theater in college, kept going with it. How did that shift? What were the shows? What were you really, really focused on as you like learned about yourself as a performer?
Yeah, so in high school, you know, I was in the musicals, but like mostly I was more comfortable doing straight plays and just like dramatic plays. So in college, I was able to transition into that. And what was nice about high school, again, is like I was doing 5 shows a year, right? So to go from 5 to 2 or 3 seemed like an easier pace. I mean, you know, along with schoolwork and that other kind of stuff. Of course. But in college, I was introduced to like new plays, you know, and contemporary stuff and more sort of like out there stuff. So I don't know if you know Sarah Rule, the playwright. She's from like the Chicagoland area. She has a version of Eurydice that's very good. Ooh. And she also has this 3-act play called Passion Play, which
okay, I've heard I've heard the buzz. Please tell me and the listeners about it.
Passion Play is lovely. It's a very long play, but it's a very good read. It's 3 different acts, and in each act is a different location and a different time period. Cool. So the first act is, 1500s England. The second act is 1939 in like Germany, and then the third act is 1985 in South Dakota, right? And it's a cast of like, I think like between 12 and 15, and in each act there's one person like playing a track, right? So there's one person who's like the male lead, right? The romantic interest. And then there's one who's his girlfriend or his wife or his lover, right?
The female. And
people sort of change. Yeah, right, exactly. People sort of change, or the comedic relief, right? Or there's 2 brothers in each of them. And my track is, in the first act, I was Queen Elizabeth. In the second act, I was Adolf Hitler. And in the third act, I was Ronald Reagan.
Okay. God damn it. That is amazing. So what's happening in the act? So it's like, it's these historical moments, and then within it.
So it's like yeah, these different time periods where it's leading to these small towns putting on a passion play in different time periods, right? In different contexts and what that means, right?
Cool.
So at the end of each act, it's the presentation of it. In the first one, they finally, they put up the cross, they